It's 2:07 a.m. and you're half awake, half negotiating with gravity, because your dog has once again claimed what used to be your side of the bed. Their body is stretched across the mattress like they own the lease, their head resting with complete confidence on your pillow, while you're balancing on the edge, wondering how something that weighs 20 kilos can psychologically occupy 90% of your sleeping space. And for most people, the first thought is simple: comfort, habit, maybe even a little separation anxiety. But that explanation collapses the moment you understand what is actually happening inside your dog's brain. This is not random behavior. It is not clinginess. It is a deeply engineered biological decision shaped by thousands of years of evolution and a neurochemical bond so precise that it actively reshapes both your nervous systems while you sleep. And once you see the science behind it, you start to wonder whether your dog ever really chose to sleep anywhere else at all. To understand why your dog insists on sleeping beside you, you have to start in a laboratory at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, where researchers studied dogs using the Ainsworth Strange Situation framework originally designed for human infants. In that experiment, babies are observed when their caregiver leaves the room and returns, and their reactions reveal something fundamental about attachment. What scientists discovered when they applied the same framework to dogs is that your pet is not just trained to follow you, but emotionally structured to bond with you in almost identical patterns to human children. They show proximity-seeking behavior when you leave, distress during separation, and a calm emotional reset when you return. Around 61% of dogs in these studies were classified as securely attached, the same proportion seen in human toddlers. And this is where the sleeping behavior takes on a new meaning, because when your dog chooses to sleep next to you, they are not simply seeking warmth or comfort. They are placing themselves in the only environment their brain has categorized as completely safe. You are not part of their life. You are their definition of safety itself, and that realization changes everything about the way you interpret that weight on your legs at night. That emotional safety is not abstract. It is chemical. A study published in Science and Research conducted at Asabu University in Japan revealed a feedback loop between dogs and humans driven by oxytocin, the same hormone responsible for bonding between mothers and infants. When you look at your dog, their oxytocin levels rise. When they look back at you, your oxytocin rises in return. It is a loop that strengthens itself through nothing more than eye contact and proximity. But what makes this even more striking is what happens when you compare this to wolves. Even wolves raised by humans do not activate this same loop. The genetic wiring simply does not allow it in the same way. In dogs, however, this system becomes deeply active, and physical closeness like sleeping side by side pushes the effect even further. 10 minutes of gentle contact has been shown to reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, in both species simultaneously. That means when your dog curls up next to you at night, your body is not just sharing space with them. Your nervous systems are actively lowering stress together, preparing both of you for deeper, more synchronized rest. To understand how unusual this is, you have to go back roughly 15,000 years, long before cities, long before agriculture, back to a world lit only by fire. Early humans sat around campfires while wolves circled the edges of light, watching, waiting, surviving. Somewhere in that ancient tension, something changed. One of the most powerful pieces of evidence comes from a burial site in Germany, where archaeologists discovered the remains of a dog that had suffered from canine distemper. This dog was not abandoned. It had been cared for over a period of roughly 5 weeks, long enough for it to survive far beyond what would have been possible without human intervention. That single act of care represents something profound, the beginning of a biological alliance. Over generations, this relationship did not just shape behavior, it reshaped genetics. Modern studies point toward changes in regions like chromosome 6, associated with hypersociability. Dogs are not simply tamed wolves. They carry genetic modifications that make them neurologically dependent on human presence in a way wolves never experience. In other words, humans did not just domesticate dogs. They co-evolved a species that is biologically designed to seek emotional proximity to us, even in sleep. But then comes a contradiction that confuses many dog owners. According to sleep studies, including data referenced by the Mayo Clinic, dogs can technically disrupt human sleep cycles through movement, temperature changes, and light disturbances. Yet research from the University of Jyväskylä in Finland in 2024 shows something unexpected. Many owners actually report better subjective sleep quality when their dog is present. The explanation lies in something called heart rate variability co-regulation. When a bonded dog sleeps beside you, your heart rhythms begin to subtly synchronize. Your nervous system adjusts to the steady presence of a familiar heartbeat, and your body interprets it as environmental safety. Interestingly, this effect does not occur with other humans in the same consistent way. It is specific to bonded dogs. Your sleep may be objectively more interrupted, but your brain interprets the environment as safer, which changes the quality of rest at a neurological level. Safety, not stillness, is what your brain ultimately uses to define restorative sleep. But this deep bond also carries an emotional responsibility. Because when a dog suddenly stops sleeping beside you, it is rarely meaningless. One possibility is physical discomfort. Dogs, especially aging ones, often hide pain instinctively, and reluctance to jump onto beds or couches can be an early sign of joint deterioration, such as arthritis. Another possibility is cognitive change. Canine cognitive dysfunction, sometimes described as dog dementia, affects roughly 35% of dogs over the age of 8. It disrupts sleep cycles, memory of familiar routines, and even spatial awareness. A dog that once followed you everywhere and slept beside you without hesitation may begin to drift away simply because their internal map of the world is changing. This is not behavior to ignore. It is communication, quiet but urgent, written in absence instead of action. And yet, after all this science, after genetics, hormones, and evolutionary history, the image returns to where it began. It is still 2 a.m. Your dog is still there, pressed against you, occupying far more space than physically necessary. But now it looks different. They are not stealing your bed. They are returning to something their brain has defined as home for thousands of generations. Out of every scent, every corner of the house, every possible place they could choose to sleep, they choose you. Not randomly, not occasionally, but consistently, as if their nervous system is anchored to yours in a way that sleep itself depends on. So tell me something simple in the comments, because I am genuinely curious. What percentage of the bed does your dog take up tonight? And if that question makes you look at your dog differently, then the next question will go even deeper. Because what happens in a dog's brain when they stare silently into your eyes might be even more revealing than everything we just uncovered about sleep. And once you understand that, you may never interpret that gaze the same way again.